We are joined by Alpesh Patel from Prifinium Partners. Let's get to the hair in a minute, shall we? But
it's a sensitive subject.
Sure it is. We'll get there towards the end, there, Alpesh. Starting with a dire warning coming from the IMF that we certainly haven't seen the end of the debt crisis in Europe.
No, and in particular, they're pointing at Greece. It's an impressive country, Greece. It's doing more damage now than it did when Alexander the Great ruled the country. The problem seems to be this debt is a bottomless pit, albeit we have got the world's best financial brains trying to calculate the figure, so we should be all right, except they just don't know how much money they're going to need. No one seems to know, and they don't know how many countries it's going to impact. It's looking pretty desperate. What's interesting is it's in the Gulf News. I'm sure they're not gloating with all their money in the Middle East, saying, look at what state you guys are in. But, yeah, it's looking pretty desperate, though the euro is holding up.
Right, but does this mean that we can't rule out the default phenomenon? It's not attractive, but there's been a lot more talk about it recently, if not a total default, at least a partial default to ease the pressure. Yeah,
one of the ways you can work out whether countries are likely to default is through the price at which some of the financial instruments are traded. And at the moment, of course, some element of default is priced in, but it's not looking imminent, at least, presumably because they think the Germans or the IMF or the EU or some other fund will throw more money at the problem. But as I say, it's just when you think, oh, they only needed this much. No, they need double that, and it might be more. And what worries me is, of course, they have no idea how much they actually do need. I wish I could say that to my bank manager.
Without wanting to trivialise it, the Eurovision Song Contest is kicking off in earnest. And do you think it would give Greece, for instance, a bit of a lift if it were to win?
Apparently these things are rather expensive. I suspect, and I think you know full well, that the Greeks will have put up a really bad job for the Eurovision Song. Not that the rest of them are bad at all, but no, Greece it'll be a race to the bottom because it is incredibly expensive to run these things, and I think that really could tip the country over the edge.
Jedward, for Ireland?
All I can say is good luck
to
Greece and Ireland.
It's
a wonderful calibre of talent there, so, you know, there'll be sport for choice. But let's move on now to Egypt, because a rather worrying situation with the crime statistics, but more importantly, people busting out of jail, and the police are too afraid to crack down on them. Yeah,
again, looking at the long story, as I did with Greek history, if we go back to Egyptian history, Cleopatra would have known what to do with these people. The criminals, that is. The problem with this revolution was this. Do you either want totalitarian order or do you want democratic anarchy? Because it appears nobody had a post-revolution plan. What are we going to do afterwards? Now, the Egyptians shouldn't be blamed for this. When the West went into Iraq, it didn't really have a post-revolution plan either. So it's not just an Egyptian phenomenon. But the issue is, now what are you going to do to get law and order? And it doesn't look like the Egyptians have got a clue. They probably haven't got the money. And the money's not going to come in from foreign investment.
It's going to be a vicious spiral. Certainly before the actual government was toppled. There were anecdotal reports about prisoners breaking out of jail, and of course this added to the problems. It created a very violent climate in a very unstable situation.
Absolutely, and you often get this immediately after a revolution. When there is that level of anarchy, you'll get some people wistfully longing for the days of the last dictator. And hopefully that won't happen, but somebody needs to get a grip on this, and it doesn't look like Mohammed al-Baradei is getting a grip on it.
And in fact, this is seriously threatening any kind of economic recovery for Egypt, isn't it?
Exactly. It does spook foreign investment into the country, and it does make other countries think twice. You know, it'll make most likely the Syrians and their nascent revolution, if you can call it that, think twice, because they'll think, well, actually, you know, a bit of order, not too bad.
Moving on, staying with corporate affairs, returning to corporate affairs, in this case it's Glencore. Now, the actual IPO, that attracts a huge amount of publicity. The latest development, they've actually closed the books. But at the same time, this is all happening at a time when we've actually seen this continuing decline with commodity prices generally.
Yes, I like the comment in the newspaper from one of the analysts about the fall in commodity prices. He said, it's really extraordinary. I'm weary of saying it's unprecedented, but it's unprecedented. Now, that's the level of financial analysis you've got going on in the business pages of the Times. Yes, what's happened with this is we have seen this sharp declines, unprecedented sharp declines in commodity prices. One thing's clear, commodity prices will rise again. They'll rise again because many of commodities are priced in dollars. The dollar is going to decline. And the reason it's going to decline is because there's been a flood of dollars into the market because of quantitative easing, so you can expect commodity prices to go up. You can also expect it because blame the Chinese and the Indians for demanding so many commodities because they've discovered capitalism and we're all paying the price for it.
And we have been told as well that the commodity market was due for some form of a correction because there was this fear of a bubble growing and bubbles can't sustain themselves.
Yeah, well, when you make shed loads of profit, you do want to take some money off the table when you've, you know, as in the case of many of these commodity traders and Glencore being one of them, when you are making billions hand over fist at the price of commodities.
Also, going back to the earlier issue of debt spreading within the Eurozone, this actually suggests that Chinese economic growth is likely to cool and that OECD countries are in a bit of a mess.
Well, we know OECD countries, many of them are in a bit of a mess, but Chinese economic growth cooling, well, we're talking about going from maybe 10% to 9% growth per annum. And we do need a little bit of cooling, not least because we're now competing in Britain and other countries around the world with the Chinese over food because they've got wealthier and wealthier, and I've said before on this programme they're all desperate to become obese like the rest of us, and so what they're doing is they're competing for the same food resources, so we do want them actually to cool their economic growth a bit and maybe eat a little bit less, demand a little bit less, so we can get our grubby little hands on things for a little bit cheaper price.
OK, moving on, dirty tricks at Facebook. Alleged dirty tricks.
Yes, but wily, clever journalists were not fooled by this. What had happened here is a PR company went to a group of journalists, told them that Google were not so good with privacy either.
It's ironic, given the privacy issues on Facebook.
Exactly, and the journalists didn't, the PR company rather didn't mention they were acting for Facebook, so Facebook was trying to improve its reputation by making other people look bad. I mean, it really is school playground kind of tricks, and it got caught out. But as I say, it's because journalists are absolutely shrewd and they're unmanipulatable by PR companies. It's a wonder we have PR companies at all.
It's great that you looked at us when you said that about journalists being
absolutely.
shrewd
You
and not
saw
the kind
through
of
the
people
story
prone to
and reported
manipulation.
it, and that's what landed Facebook in trouble. It's the quality of global journalism.
Moving on to dangerous hair, a dangerous sport, actually. I mean, I was treated to a glimpse of Australian rules football a little bit earlier, and it is no joke, is it? So no wonder the hair comes into it.
I was actually playing. I was playing rugby the other week, and I got sent off for dangerous fat. I have to say, the other 10-year-olds were rather injured by me, but that's a different issue. But no, I think it can be dangerous.
You didn't have hair like this, chaps.
No, and you could see how, on a health and safety basis, that is quite lethal with the Brill cream and all the rest of it. As I say, I wish I did have hair like that.
Rock-solid gel,
it sort of slipped through the hands, really, wasn't it?
Alpesh,
what more could I say?
From Pricinium Partners.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for taking us through the papers. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.